Welcome, listeners, to www.ironradio.org, the website and podcast for all things strength sports and sports nutrition. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everybody. This is Phil Stevens. You're on another action-packed episode of Iron Radio. I am a strength coach, a powerlifter, Highland Games athlete, I'm an official youth sport coach now, as of like yesterday. So I'm gonna be helping with strength and training for another high school and a offensive line coach. So
how much of this before you have to bring on staff? I mean, you've had staff before.
Well, I am staff right now for this organization, so I am an assistant coach for this new head coach. So that's good.
Okay.
And just had a good conversation with him. He's taking up the head coaching position for the biggest local high school here in town. It's the one I graduated from. And he is the first head football coach that I've heard admit this. He's like, I've been a strength coach for 15 years. He said, but the only reason I've been a strength coach is because I am the football coach. He said, I don't know strength coaching. It's just how it works here in
refreshing.
Kansas. And he's like, I would love your help. I want to learn. He said, I know what I'm doing is not optimal. So, so that was refreshing to hear. So.
It was, a long time ago when we were recording stuff that I had students actually do a project once where they went out and they talked to the different head coaches, and the stuff that they were doing, just pulling routines out of magazines, like it was not good. They really need to have respect that they're outside of their wheelhouse.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many here locally. It's like you hear that, like, well, what program are you using for your kids? We're using what the 1990 Nebraska team did. And it was like, You realize they were all on drugs. It's not a great program. There's a reason they suck now, and they were really good then. And it's because the whole program got popped. But, yeah.
Right on. Oh, I should introduce myself. Listeners know, Lonnie Lowry. I have been a professor for a long time. I do some consulting with, graduate programs in academia, in the food industry, and that sort of thing. Actually, Phil, just to get back to what we were just talking about, I guess when I was mentioning staff, I was thinking more along the lines of, if you get multiple clients, you can't do everything to everybody. Are you going to have to?
Yeah, that's true. But,
I
don't know. I'll cross that hurdle when I get there, when I feel overwhelmed. And that's the way I have been. I mean, honestly, I've learned to be that way in all business adventures. And even my gym, when we started it, like, we expanded not when we could, but when we absolutely had to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the smartest move for a small business, especially a gym. It's like, don't go buy a bunch of shit until you have to. Like, I was running 45 people out of a 2-car garage, and it got to the point where it's like, babe, we got to change. Like, we have to.
Right. I remember.
And that's usually the smartest thing, and that's how I'll roll with this. And I'm already turning other places away, so because I can't just the bandwidth is not there,
and it just becomes hard when you're what they want. You don't want to fake with, oh, here's my assistant Bob.
Yeah, and that's also tough for me. It's like, no matter what, you're still attaching your name to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough, and so.
Well, I'll tell you, I have one piece of news. I was scanning through some of the news today, and I was getting salty about I've really been on about this thing that, corporations and the capitalistic influence on science is just, like the avocado people are saying avocados are good for you, and the artificial sweetener people are saying artificial sweeteners are fine. And I want more honest critique, maybe. I'm not saying because something is funded, it's all fake and completely fabricated. But as I was going through this, I'm like, this all seems obvious and or influenced in some way. So the one piece of news, though, listeners know I like coffee, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Ergolog, because the other stuff that I was looking at, the news was sort of, it seemed a little obvious. And, you and I have had those conversations over the years, like, oh, great, science says anabolic steroids are anabolic,
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. Well, I went to Ergolog and I would suggest people go check these guys out. They scan the literature for anything that could be muscle building or fat loss kinds of stuff. But this is reinforcing something that I've been suspecting lately. I think some of our listeners know I did a big sweeping review of coffee and sports nutrition, and one fact kept popping up, that it looks like coffee can enhance muscle mass. I, at the time, was thinking this must be the chlorogenic acid, or it could be the caffeine making you lift heavier or get more reps and the super training effect. But there are other components in coffee, and I'm doing a couple of books and book chapters on related topics right now. But anyway, this came through Ergolog. Trigonelline is a natural anabolic agent. This is a niacin-related compound. It says also for young people. So just let me read this briefly. We're becoming increasingly interested in the muscle-building properties, which we already wrote about the day before yesterday. They were writing about this earlier and I was familiar with this paper, apparently this niacin-like compound, it's a precursor. We hear about those NAD boosters all the time. And as you age, you have, reduced amounts or the metabolism of NAD as part of your a mitochondrial metabolism. It suffers, and there's a way to boost it. People who have sarcopenia are even worse off in that way. So, boosting it could be a good idea. But it looks like coffee provides part of this. And so this is a patent. Nestle's really big in the coffee space, as a lot of people know, like Nescafe and all that sort of thing. But DSM is a manufacturing company, and I think they're the ones that sponsored this. But I would, again, point people at ergolog.com. It says Nestle's patent describes in vitro research. So a lot of this is like in a dish or in animals. But that trigonelline accelerates the development of young muscles by 36%.
Wow.
So what? That's an enormous amount. They did some rat research where some of it was where they suspended one leg and made them do extra work on, the working leg. Some of it was just both hind legs dangling, and they're looking at atrophy. But in both these situations, they saw increased muscle mass. But you know how these rodent studies are. They give them whopping doses that people probably couldn't do. I think it says the human equivalent would be like a gram to 1.5 grams a day. And this is something you measure in milligrams, It does say preferably 50 to 500 milligrams per day would be appropriate for a human. And for people who are interested, coffee is going to give you somewhere between 25 and 100 for a smallish to regular size cup of coffee. So it's going to be on the low end of this. But again, a lot of reviews, including the one that we did last fall, suggested 4 cups a day. So there could be enough trigonelline in coffee to have an anabolic effect. So this is after 3 weeks. So I don't know, interesting angle on this. And, Nestle, like a lot of sports supplement companies, they're going to try to take what they perceive as one of the active ingredients and then just extract it, like standardized extract and sell that. But I'm looking at this because it's not just in coffee, it's in other plants, that you can consume. But, maybe this is the mechanism. As I kept seeing these, not causal, but just observational studies that people who drink more coffee have less sarcopenia. You drink more coffee, you have more muscle mass. And interestingly, this is not just in aging, right? This is also in young critters. So I look for the sports nutrition world, the strength world, to probably latch on to this, trigonelline as a pill, an anabolic pill, and taking huge amounts. But I think I'm in the state right now where I'll just make sure I drink my 4 cups of coffee. I enjoy that anyway. It might not be a huge dose, but it should be enough to matter. I mean, they're saying 50 to 500 mgs a day for a human, and 4 cups of coffee would put you in the middle of that range.
Yeah.
So
it's expensive. I can find trigonelline online, but 20 milligrams of 98% pure trigonelline is $60. Holy moly.
Just drink your damn coffee.
Yeah. So
some places, some of these websites are calling it trig because they're sick of trying to pronounce it and everything. But
sure.
Yeah, it's related to niacin. It's a heat labile substance, so you do lose some. Because I think dry beans have like 1% by weight, but I don't think you're going to get that in dark roasted beans and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to drink 4 cups a day, and a lot of people might be like, Lonnie, you're a coffee fiend. That's crazy. It's like, remember, a cup is not big. You're talking about,
Yeah, a cup's 8 ounces.
Much smaller than you would.
Yes.
I got this cup in my hand from Gabby and Sean, and it's a good hearty mug.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 12 to 16 ounces in this mug, right? So 2 or 3 of these, and you're there.
Yeah. That's how I'm looking at mine. It's probably a 20-ounce mug. It's a big mug of coffee. Mm-hmm. So, at least 16. So, I mean, I at least have 2 cups right there in one shot.
And, there's so much news surrounding the NAD boosters, and those are expensive. I actually bought a few bottles just to see. As I age, I thought, well, they have, NR or NMN. They have these different niacin-related compounds, NAD boosters. And anybody who's had some ex-phys classes, the importance of NAD in cell metabolism. And it's a huge part of how your Krebs cycle works in your mitochondria. But, it's interesting to see. This could be a mechanism by which coffee is doing those things that they keep hinting at in observational studies. I mean, this is early stage stuff, but that's why it's kind of fun. That, maybe there's something at work here, and it's not the chlorogenic acid or just the caffeine, because those are the superstars I think we normally think about, especially caffeine.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, I mean, we talked to Jarrell, Mike, anybody. Well, yeah, super training effect. If I can get 2 more reps or get higher 1 RM, which you probably can when you're jacked on a couple of packs of Via kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's no different than like we talk about with us as we age and taking ibuprofen. Like, are there studies that say ibuprofen may stunt muscle growth? Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
But if it allows me to train right,
or at all.
Exactly. It lets me go in and still train hard. One would think that has to negate the negative effects.
Yeah, I would think so, especially because I usually only take 2 or 3 ibuprofen pills at a 200 mg, pills at a time. I don't take the 4+, like the hardcore anti-inflammatory dose. Yeah. And that's what I think would probably be more problematic with muscle remodeling. But even if it is, like you said, the fact that I'm training has to overwhelm that. Don't tell me if I take ibuprofen and train, that's not better than sitting on my couch half crippled.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how many athletes out there are taking something a lot stronger than ibuprofen to keep going? And they're not withering away into nothing.
Vicodin.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
yeah. So anyway, the trig stuff, the trigonelline stuff it's interesting. It might be another mechanism by which coffee can do its thing. And let's face it, we know damn well that this is not going to be a magic pill. They're talking about 36% heavier weight in, I think it's the calf muscles of these rodents and stuff. But okay, let's say 4 cups of coffee does get you there in the middle of this range. It probably does help with muscle mass, I'm starting to think, but nobody's getting huge. You're not going to be on the cover of a muscle magazine because you drink 4 cups of coffee. And I think a lot of people, they're so eager to try to find natural compounds that are the equivalent of, anabolic androgenic steroids. And,
yeah, I mean, but let's be real here. This could be another one of those things that is like many supplements, it's the 1% factor. And when you're talking elite levels, those small percentages pay off if you have all your other ducks in a row. And that's like the people that they have like shit training, shit diet, but they'll take this supplement that adds the 1%. I mean, just for instance, the easy one, like creatine, we know it works. But if you have shit diet and shit training, it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, you're going to retain a little water. Right.
So, it could be that one little thing that pushes somebody over that edge where they need to be.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting because it kept cropping up. Yes, partly because I'm working on a book chapter related to coffee and health, but this isn't one that I've given much attention to, this niacin-related compound. With all the NAD boosters, on the market that are $100 a bottle,
Mm-hmm.
it does make me think, well, this would be the poor man's NAD booster. So,
Yeah.
plus you get all the other benefits of what's in the total package of coffee. Well, I know we're pressed for time. I'm just glad my internet connection is holding up. I'm thinking, you know what? I can do this from a campground. If Mike can do this from the jungles of Costa Rica, hacking his way through the jungle with a machete,
Yeah.
Then I could get online for a while. We could talk shop.
You have to get you a Starlink on top of your RV.
I was thinking about it. Like right now, I'm being a cheapskate. I've just got my phone's hotspot. That's how
that's what I do all the time when I'm traveling. But
yeah,
I've seen tons of ads for the whole Starlink. Have internet anywhere.
The RV version of that's $125, and I don't want to bore listeners, but yes, I'm waffling. I'm just such a cheapskate. Like if this is working pretty well,
yeah.
And I know that you've done this before too. You go way off grid.
Yep.
This is not going to work. What we're doing here.
Yeah. So
I'm just in Michigan, so it's not like an exotic location.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, Iron Radio is back, and in an expanded way. What can you expect? Well, first, you can get it simulcast every week on the nutritionradio.org network, as well as on the original podcast. It'll appear regularly on iTunes, Spotify, and all your favorite podcasting sites. We have a new Iron Radio / Nutrition Radio Facebook page as well. Please check us out. We're even backed up on YouTube. We hope that an expanded presence will get you the news, education, banter, and guests that's made Iron Radio's community so loyal from the start. You are appreciated.
Anyway, you wanted to talk about competing basically as an adult.
Competing as an adult. It just, like, I compete tomorrow, and that's what had me thinking of this. And I've been thinking about this since, honestly, my hip surgery. So after my hip surgery, which was, God, it's been 9 years now. 9 years ago, like next month, roughly. And at that point, like I was thinking, okay, retirement. And that lasted about a year. And like, I still just have that drive. Like, I want to compete. Is it the same as when I was younger? Yeah, no, but there's something about it that I love. And like, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And, it's like, at what age do I just not want to? And I don't see it. Like, it'll come. It's going to come. I mean, inevitably. But, like, I enjoy competing just to compete. And is it different than when I was younger? Yeah. Like, I mean, the drive to compete then was different. Right now, I just like testing myself on. I just enjoy the aspect. I just enjoy competing. Whereas before it was like, I'm going to win this son of a bitch. And,
right.
But I was just reading some studies on it, and it's like just how good competing is for you in something. Like these weren't all athletic competitions. This study, it was like competing in any way, mental gymnastics and whatever. And the study was interesting in the fact that it's like, from the age of 30 to 50 seemed to be the prime area of competition in the physical realm and mental realm. And they stated basically because under that age, you had a bunch of boom and bust. You were much more apt to be a risk taker under 30. So they would do high risk things in physical and mental activities that many times could pay off large dividends. Many times it went the opposite route. Whereas you saw the people in 30 to 50 age group were much more cognitive about their competing. They used their experience to win. They were much less risk takers, but the risks they took were calculated. And there was much less boom or bust and an average higher level of competition because of that. Like, did they win drastically as much? No. But they also didn't lose drastically as much. And I don't know. It just gets me thinking about the benefits of just getting in the arena. That's one of the things for me. I just love the fact that I'm pushing 50 and I'll still get in that arena and do something. And luckily now I'm mainly doing it against people my own age. Like tomorrow I compete in a Masters competition. So, I'm going against other people in the 45 to 50 age group. So the competition level's even because I'm not dumb enough. Like there's some 30-year-olds that would mop the floor with me. And that's one thing I noticed. Like I think I peaked in my mid 30s athletically. I think because in strength sports, like we've talked about in powerlifting, that old man strength takes time. Like, are there people doing amazing things in their 20s? Yes. But generally in powerlifting, if you look back across the greats, it was much later in life when they were great. Yeah, I mean, I think part of that's going on, but, yeah, I don't know. It just like, I don't want to see a day where I don't want to, I'm just competitive by nature. Like if I'm playing board games with my kid, I'm going to go. I'm doing this, and it's just wired in my DNA.
You always, I think, what set you apart from the time I met you was the frequency that you competed.
Yeah.
And one thing I got to say is, thinking like a scientist, there's got to be a correlation between the number of total competitions in someone's life and some health benefit, right?
I would think
it's got to relate. It might not be just raw longevity, maybe.
Yes.
But to your point about maturity and stuff, I'm really of the opinion that you need that because if not, I think what the decisions, those boom or bust kind of decisions that you're not willing to make, it's because you pay a harder, heavier price when you're in your 40s and 50s.
Yes.
When you do that kind of stuff, and I mean even long-term stuff. Like let's say I decided to start gramming some, trend. Blend, who knows? My prostate's not going to have it. I remember making a comment years ago on the Biotest website that I said, I'm not sure a 50-year-old body likes that stuff in the same way that a 25-year-old body is. Thinking about prostate size and how it's naturally much bigger. A lot of guys in their 50s, they're already on like Flomax and these prostate meds. And like, I want to be able to piss when I'm 60.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing, or not have a prostate surgery and not be able or be incontinent, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the kind of stuff, even though that irritated a lot of young people, they didn't want to hear that. Like, that's bullshit. It helps everybody. It's like, no, when you take competition level amounts of some of these things, you're going to pay a harder price when you're in your 40s and 50s. I'm sorry, you just are.
Yeah,
because you've already used a lot of those bodily systems. There's been this natural aging progression. I'm not saying that some HRT it couldn't do wonders for some people, but I just think they didn't want to hear that because they were boom or bust mentality, right? And I was already in my 30s, I think, when I wrote that. Like, okay, let's balance this out.
No, and that's no different. Everybody knows I've been. I don't know. I've been privileged enough to be around some great competitors in the powerlifting worlds and strength sports worlds, and a resounding theme with them. They'll go unnamed, but like the people that have done anabolics to get to be the best in their sport where it's legal, and the resounding theme for them is I can't take what I did when I was younger.
Yeah,
I just can't, and my body will not do it. So.
Cardiovascularly too. It's not just a mistake.
No. And just how their body reacts to it now. Like I was talking to one particular person, they're like, I can't take D-ball anymore. I used to love it. It was amazing. But it just the way it interacts with my older body ain't happening. So
well, you look at some of these guys as they age. Rob and I used to talk about this. Like Rich Gaspari was like this when he was late 20s. He was so hard as a rock and full, and he would convince himself in later years of comebacks, but his arms just weren't responding the same way. Like Rob was calling him a bag of veins, I remember. But it's just you don't look the same. I know bodybuilding's its own issue with all this too, because cosmetically, you're not going to look the same in your 50s.
On that topic, I think bodybuilding is different. I mean, it's going to, like if you get on a football field, some kind of competitive sport like that, football, baseball, basketball, whatever, there's a maturing mental aspect of the game that you can lean on as your physical body ages. Like, you can use experience. There's no like experience you can use to benefit you on a bodybuilding stage.
Well, other than the only example I would think would be the crazy shit that young guys do the week before a contest.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to try sodium loading and creatine loading. And I watched one guy backstage with a bottle of wine between his legs. He's slamming a bottle of wine thinking it's going to vasodilate him or dehydrate him or something. And I'm like, dude, you're soft. You needed to diet for another month and a half.
No. And that may be where it's different. I think in bodybuilding, the experience factor, the age and mental experience factor could pay off in pre-contest prep.
Right, yeah. Like
even going through the diet, you're mature enough to know at this point what you're going to go through, and you just handle it.
That's a good point. Like what actually matters in a day-to-day diet, as opposed to going nuts and be like, I'm not eating anything but ice cubes and chicken breast.
And you know what works for you, and also just the mental maturity that, like, hey, this is going to suck, but it's self-imposed. I'm doing this on purpose. You're mature enough to not get as pissed off and cranky, and because like, hey, man, I'm starving myself on purpose.
That's
here.
True.
It's my
See
fault.
It coming.
And but in other sports, like even to a smaller aspect in powerlifting, like even just being smart enough to, like, I'm smart enough at my age now, and I have been for years, like, to even call my numbers right.
Right.
Mature enough not to just shoot for the moon. Like, should I go 800 or should I, my plan at the last meet was 800-pound squat, but I went 782 because I knew that's what I have.
Shave
and I was mature enough to take 18 pounds off,
Right.
And that's where I think the winning comes in. Like, at a younger age, I'd have been like, fuck it. And I did this. Like, when I missed that 800, I pulled the 725 opener. And I told my then coach, Jesse Burdick, who was helping me, it's like, let's just go 8. I know I don't have a lot left in me. And because it'd been a long day of squats and bench and everything else. And I should have went and I missed it barely. But if I'd have went 780, 785, I'd have had it,
Mm-hmm.
And it's that mental maturity to take what's there, And I think that's what happens. You see that in other sports and in team sports and things like that. Yes, the young kids are good, but you see it all the time. When he gets a little older, he'll be better. They have the maturity behind them and the experience, and they won't do as risky shit, but everything's calculated because they've seen it all. Look at Tom Brady compete until he's 45 or whatever. He wasn't physically what he was, but he had just seen so much, he knew what he can take. And I think that's where the older person can benefit, and you also know when to pull it off. Like, could my career have been better with some maturity at a younger age? I would probably be less injured. Like when I blew my first bicep. Just keep going, pussy. And what happened?
Right.
I blew a bicep. Whereas I'd have probably been better off, man, just take a week or two off. Let things heal. And I think there's a fine line you have to learn. And if you could learn it at an early age, like there's a fine line between pushing it and going too far, that you learn as you age. Like, it's
a good point. Impact sports or performance kinds of things and the choices you would make. Because not just in training, like go for it, you wuss,
Yeah.
But even what, like you were saying, like the numbers you would call, what you're going to try, like that. Your aggression becomes tempered with a little bit of wisdom, and you're not. The one thing bodybuilding does not have is an physical impact or performance aspect, really. I mean, other than posing, which sadly has really fallen away, is the only performance aspect of it. But it seems like those would be the kinds of decisions where you might attempt something that's probably not going to happen when you're 22 years old. And when you're 32, you're like, listen, I'm already in first place. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Or
even going head-to-head against somebody. Like, I've gone head-to-head against younger lifters, and they will, like I said, they'll see we're close, and they'll make a stupid call. Like, oh, he jumped too high. I'm not going over them. I'm going to go under them and hope. I know I'm going to hit mine, and hope they don't. Because they jump too high to try and beat me. And if they win that day, whatever. Gave my best. So,
Right.
But
so what's going through your head? I mean, I know we're going to have a shorter episode, but with your competition, I mean, is this one in a string of stuff you're going to do in 2024, or you're going to just have fun with it? And
I'm going to go out and have fun. Let's be honest. I'm going to go out there and try my best, but and I'll turn it on. And that's one thing I've learned too. And as I get older, is training is less intense. I can turn it on. I can still turn it on like I was 25. The amount of times I can turn it on is much lower. I'm going to be wrecked tomorrow or Monday. I'll be wrecked Monday.
Yeah.
So you learn that as you age. Even my training has changed. I call lifts much earlier. That's good enough for today. I don't go in with a set number anymore in my training. I go in, let's hit, if it's a heavy day, I'm going to hit what's heavyish, but feels safe. Last weekend, I called it way early on squats, but I knew, I can't afford to be out.
No, right, exactly.
And I know that, and I know that calling my squat at 600 compared to 675, if that means that I'm able to compete the following weekend, it's a lot more important than hitting 675 in the gym. And potentially paying for it. Now, could I have done that and walked away last weekend? Yeah, but the chances of me not walking away and then it harming competition is greater. So,
right.
I have a much more lax attitude. As far as I still love competing, but if I I could give a shit if I win. It'll be awesome, but I won't be butthurt.
It's balance. I think that kind of maturity is balance. Sometimes I think about that with. The last time I was squatting 405, because I don't anymore. Yeah. My arms are going numb. I'm like, what are you doing? There's no competition at this point.
Yeah.
You're in your mid 50s. What do or dieting? It's I'd rather have some balance where, I'm still going to eat healthy. And there are times I'll get strict, but not all the way down to broccoli and chicken breast 4 times a day. Yeah. I'd rather have that glass of wine and have some balance.
Yes. I think it is. But there's also that happy place in the back of your mind where, I guarantee you, if, we took you and somebody else your age, okay, if I have to do it, I could squat 405. And that feels good. I know if I had to do it, you hold the gun to my head and say, 700 squat or your family's going down. I'm squatting 700.
Right.
Most people couldn't. And it feels good. Okay, guys, keep poking the bear because I'll turn it on if you want me to.
Phil, for years I've said that middle-aged guys. You know what? In fact, it's funny. I told this story years ago. There was a student in class, and we had an advanced guy come in, a strength coach, jacked guy, and when he left, the student said something like, those old guys might get injured, but they'll kick your ass. And it's so that's kind of like what you're saying is you pay the price, but at that point, somebody who poked the bear is smoldering ashes.
Yes, exactly. And it's just I'm not going to turn it on, but you keep pushing me and I might, guys. And I think it also,
that's a problem. In the long run, you're going to pay a horrible price. But like I said, at that point, it's too late for the person who jailed.
No. And I'll tell you what, competition as a masters athlete, it's more pure fun than it was because of the people I'm competing with. It's just a bunch of us old dudes, and we're just happy to be out there still doing it. And we all joke around with each other and support each other. And it's totally different vibe than, when I was competing in my early to mid 30s. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to we're all cheering each other on.
Right. Exactly. I bet that's true across almost all sports, but the masters people are just more balanced.
Yes.
The guys, the last time I competed in open and masters. And there was this one just prick, young guy, in the open. just trying to be a the kind of guy who wears sunglasses inside when he doesn't have to, and and meanwhile, all the older guys, which by the way beat this guy, because they had a lot of muscle maturity in that, but they're like, hey man, you can't reach your back, let me get that oil on there for you or whatever. Just completely like sportsmen. They're just basic sportsmanship better.
Yeah, no, and that's one big thing about when I age. Like, we're just out there all having fun and supporting each other. Like, yeah, glad you're still doing it. Good job. You'll be quick to tell each other good job and things like that. So, but I don't know, man. I just hope that I'm going to stay in the arena as long as I can, and compete somehow. And it's finding that avenue that I do it. Like, I'll do another powerlifting meet sometime. I haven't done one in like 2 years, but like tomorrow is Highland Games.
Right.
And it just keeps me feeling alive, and that's like when I unretired or whatever. Like, it was my wife who finally, because she was like, you got to stop. And then after about a year and a half, she's like, you need to compete again.
I can't
something is wrong with you. I can't tolerate you. You need something to push for. And it's just the way I'm wired. I mean, like, we were out practicing the other day and my son came up and like, I'm throwing sheaf and I'm throwing okay. And then the minute he's like, I bet you $10 you can't throw it on the roof. I was like, okay, here we go.
It's on.
And yeah, it's that I just get fire from that. And I always have. And, the good thing is like, if I didn't make it, whatever. Okay, kid, here's your $10. I tried, and I would be upset, but it's like, yeah, give me something to shoot for.
But you also have the maturity to know that, listen, I've got like a 80% chance of actually doing this.
Yep.
As opposed to just being foolish. And once a mentor of mine who used to be a gymnast, he was in his like mid 70s and decided to, walk on his hands on the beach or something. He said, and I just crumpled and ate sand. and I'm like, so that's where you got to have that, you're mature enough to know better, man. Like, you can't, that's no longer on your menu.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're right. Like, if you're like, yeah, you know what, 80%, yeah, I think I'm going to, because, you don't want to look like a chump and do something completely foolish and boast about it. But, yeah, if somebody challenges you, you're like, you dude, I don't think you understand. I probably have an 80% chance of doing this.
It's the same thing as, like, dealing with the kids now that I'm working with. Like, I'm working with 15 to 18-year-old boys that are in the prime of their life. And a lot of times they'll challenge you. And it's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'll, I'm limping away later. But they're like, coach beat me.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, you're limping later. That's for sure.
But I can do it still. It's like my payback is much greater, and that's also probably the reason I don't compete as much. I can't compete every other month.
You start asking yourself why.
Yes.
Like, why am I going to do that 8 times this year when I can enjoy myself and do it twice?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yep. And it's just you're more targeted in things you do, and like there's that sweet spot where you're not stupid and you're physically still in it. And that's why I think it happened at like 35 for me. Like 35-ish was my best years. Because I was physically and mentally in a much better place. Body's still young enough to do things hard. Mind's smart enough to not do stupid things.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt for me, it was between 33 and 44 because I didn't compete compete like, as like you do. I would have to go years between because I wanted to actually bring something new.
Yes.
And PR. And when you're talking about literally tissue growth and you're not stepping on the gas real hard with gear, it takes a long time to change. But yeah, there's no doubt when I was 33 and when I was 44, as far as like top placings, like runner up in the Mr. Midwest or that kind of stuff, that was the stuff, no doubt, that I was young enough. Like right now, I can tell you, I am way more busted than I was.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh yeah.
But that's the art of it. And that's something that I'm trying to struggle with right now too, is like, what do? I never did compete as often as you, but you got to find something. You got to find some drive, like find your drive. I don't know. Maybe people need to work with a counselor or something.
Well, that's the thing. It's just finding anything. Like that's one blessing I have, like with my training partner. We're both the same age, and we'll just find an internal competition there. Like there's things that he's better at me in training, and there's things I'm better at, and that helps us.
Right.
It's a weekly competition, but with somebody else that's mentally mature enough to, yep, I'm calling it today.
I think
you got me today. Yeah.
Exactly. No, and I like that. There's honor in that.
Yeah.
Like you watch like these old movies where like knights would joust, or somebody like they have this blow up conflict, and then they laugh about it afterwards and help each other up.
Mm-hmm.
That's sportsmanship. That kind of grace. It's like, yeah, I'm going to try my damnedest to beat your ass.
But then there's also that level that we've seen people reach, especially elite athletes, where they compete again and everybody's watching them is like, dude, just stop. You're way past the point of doing that. And we've seen it a lot with people. It's like they should have just reached there's a point to stop. Now,
well, dude,
when
that is
I don't know.
That's exactly why I'm trying to think like, okay, what's next? Because I'm not going to. And I know there are guys in their 50s, maybe because they don't have the mileage. I've been doing this since I was 13.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and they're excited about it, and more power to them. But I really like that Bill Pearl rule. He's like, after age 50, I decided I wasn't going to take my shirt off in public anymore.
Yep.
It's just kind of modesty. He's not giving up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is that art. I think one of the things that maybe a listener to us today could take away is you better do some introspection. Where are you in your career?
Yeah.
Are you the risk taker? Are you in the mature category? And what are you going to do when you're no longer like winning first place at a fairly high level? Like when you're on the downslope.
Yeah.
What will your motivation be? That's a hard question.
That's real hard. And like I talk about that stuff with like Wendler all the time and things. It's like we're at that stage where we're fighting to not go backwards, like I'm literally not fighting to go forwards. I'm fighting to stay at a percentage of what I was able to do before.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to mentally grasp. But yeah. And then as far as the other part, I mean, like in masters competitions in powerlifting, the people I've seen that do the best and I've trained to do the best are like you just talked about. They're people that didn't do it at a younger age. They don't have the mileage we have.
Yeah.
And now they come into it. Like I've had people come into it at 65 and then they kill the 70-year-old class. All the other dudes they're going against were doing it when they were 20 and they've got 50 years of wear and tear.
Scars, surgery.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, okay. But I mean, that's also a good place. I mean, to see people coming into it at a later age and being able to excel. And it's like, well, you found it now. You found that physical outlet, and that's good. It took you 70 years to do it, but
better late than never.
Yes, and it's like you find that competitive fire, and yeah, I don't.
I do think this is better than, and I don't know how many powerlifters are like this, but with bodybuilding, you get the guys that are perma-bulkers. They never really compete.
Yeah.
And I do think you need to put your name on the dotted line at least every couple of years.
Yeah.
Just to know if you're like any good and at what level, I guess. And don't get me wrong. I know there are guys like Rob who I love training. I just love training.
Yep.
I respect that. I mean, that's way beyond what most, especially middle-aged and older guys are doing. They're not even training with any intensity or purpose. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's that vague, wishy-washy stuff. The last time I competed in my mid-40s is because somebody said something really vague and wishy-washy. Like, what are your goals at this point, man? Because we're 40-somethings. I don't know. I think I might try to make my arms a little bigger. I don't know. I thought, I was so disgusted by it. I signed my name on the dotted line.
Yeah. Oh, no. Signing up for something, definitely, it changes training. It just does.
Oh my God, it does.
It changes the training itself and your life. So, because that competition, like this competition tomorrow, it's Highland Games, so it's longer, so it'll be an 8-hour day. But 8 hours compared to the months of good 3-day-a-week training,
right? Prep.
That had meaning. It gives meaning to that, and that's where I like signing my name on the dotted line. It really, my training changes day to day. Because of that, still, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this. Time to turn it on, and I'll change that dial a little bit. my cognitive dial in training.
There's no question, man. There's
the
no
risk
question.
goes up a little higher. You know?
Oh, it does. I mean,
thing.
the story that I was just relating, that was transformative.
Yeah.
I mean, I took a year to bulk and a year to cut.
Yeah.
You know, or better part of a year to cut. And like you said, every morning, there's no way I would have got up at 4:00 in the morning to go walk on the treadmill.
Yes. Yep. Not without signing that sheet.
Not without signing up.
Yeah. So, and that's where I think, I don't know, boil it down to something. I just wish more people would compete a little bit at a later age. The meaning it gives.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not saying it's right for everybody, but it's right for me, and that's okay.
Well, and what are you afraid of, I think, is what we just said. The Masters guys and gals are usually a little bit
greatest. Yeah.
more cool to work with. Yeah.
Yep. And that's like I talked several guys into doing this one that are our age because of that. They're like, well, where should I sign up? C class, which C class in Highlanders, if people don't know, is total novice. Mm-hmm. And then there's B class, A class, Masters. I'm like, dude, just sign up. Yeah, you could technically do C class. I said, but come with us, Masters. We're nicer people. And we'll, like, you don't know what you're doing. We will take the time to teach you while we're competing.
That's right.
Like, we'll show you the secrets. And, like, literally while we're competing against you, we'll try to teach you how to beat us.
Right.
So
that's right.
It's a different level. So
just go for it.
Yep. So, yeah, we can call it there. That was good.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, I will report next week how I did, and I'm hoping to take my field record back in Chief. So I had the field record at 30 feet, and somebody beat me 30 feet 6 inches. But I've thrown 32.5 twice in training over the last 3 weeks. So yeah, it's been going good. But we'll see. Now it's trying to put it together on the spot, like we've talked about. There's a difference in between hitting 32 feet on a day that feels good and hitting 32 feet tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Exactly.
On
demand.
Yep. Okay, guys. Catch you later.
All right. We'll see you, man.
Iron Radio is accepting donations. If you like what we do, the professors, the scientists, the bodybuilding show promoters, the athletes themselves in powerlifting and bodybuilding, please consider making a donation or maybe buying something from the ironradio.org store. We also are accepting supporting members. So for $4 a month, which is frankly less than the bank sneaks out of your account in fees, you can step up and support a form of sort of public radio for the bodybuilding and powerlifting and strength community. The Iron Radio podcast and all of the audio on ironradio.org is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, it's important to check with your physician. Also seek the help of registered dietitians, athletic trainers, and qualified exercise physiologists in order to make the progress that you need.